Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll Podcast brought to you by the Adventure Archive. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Hunter.
And today we will be going over Empty Cycle from Rookie Jet Studio. So if you are listening to this in podcast land, this will be the episode after the interview we just had with Corey Burns of Rookie Jet Studio. If you are here in the podcast, it's weird that we did an introduction right after our BRB, but that is how it is. So right off the bat, what I do want to talk about, or at least show, is let me kick over to our physical page here.
Transition.
I need to take the Kickstart the podcast off of all of this. Boom, make that go away. So this is a little bigger window. I'm bigger in the window now. If you're not watching us live.
I'm a little small, Hunter, and this is giant Ryan. So,
but a couple of things. So both of our backgrounds, if you're watching, are art from the book, and they're stunning. But looking at, so I backed at the tier for this. All print on demand. That's what we do with Rookie Jet, or that's what they do. To get, I have 3 books in my hand. I have the actual like plain soft cover here. Beautiful, looks fantastic. I have the hardback of the plain one. It's a white cover. It's got the art that's behind me right now. It's 2 figures. It says Empty Cycle along the side, and then there is a red limited edition cover with 2 other characters on the cover, and it's black and red and beautiful and a little bit. I mean, I love the Red Giant limited edition cover. It's a bright red. It's just got that like fly on it. This doesn't, it's very different. I don't know why I was like, this gives me Red Giant vibes. I think it's just a black and white and red that really gives that to me. But
if you look at my hands, you'll see that I ordered mine in the mail late because I'm bad with ordering POD codes, but I did buy them.
Yeah. So Mon is the artist, twitter.com/Mon_2501. Beautiful fucking art. We'll keep talking about
great
this through
art.
the game.
Honestly, really good art.
But everything we've gotten from Rookie Jet is print on demand, which has its plus and minuses. Plus is that we have it in our hands right now, and the print on demand is getting better and better and better.
It's so good.
It's gotten a lot better than it was way in the past. My only knock on print on demand, and I wish there was an option for it, was to make books that aren't so shiny. Like if there was. It does. Well, it's hard to take a picture of it to make it look pretty on Instagram.
Yeah.
But if the books were a little more matte, like can you imagine like a Red Giant in that cover in the future that's like even like a cloth bound one or like a heavy matte. Yeah. But they're still absolutely stunning. It's not really a knock at all. It's just being picky and wanting even more. They're absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. But just like everything from Rookie Jet, gotta have all of the versions of it. And they're stunning, super worth it. I highly recommend snagging the PODs. It is an incredibly well made book, and as we said, the PODs are getting better and better. And interior wise, it looks fantastic, even with the red pages and stuff like that. It's printed really well. It's beautiful.
I actually think that the first when we got Red Giant, it was the first time we'd gotten like a POD, and we were like, oh wow, this is like really good, Yeah,
I do agree. I think right around that time they upped their prices a little bit, but really updated the quality of the print on demand from drive-thru. And it showed, and it looks, I mean, the Red Giant one is absolutely stunning. Like I said, I just want, even more. But again, highly recommend all of the stuff. The print on demand is absolutely worth it, and again, it gets in your hand super fast. But that is a picture of the or a little showing of the physical books. And then this week, I think we just talked about a second ago. I don't really think we have a spotlight this week. There's nothing that really
I think we're just hopping right in. If you have something you think we should spotlight, you should send it to us on Twitter.
I feel like there was something I wanted to do this week and I didn't write it down. So fuck it. It is what it is.
Fuck it.
Yeah. So we're going to hop right into Empty Cycle. And guess what? I actually, before the podcast started, set up the window.
Nice.
Yeah, boy. There it is. So this is Empty Cycle. The cover of this PDF is the standard cover. It is the mostly white background with the two figures on it on a red background, and on the right side going down it says Empty Cycle. And then I love this
because
logo.
I am involved in mankind. Any man's death diminishes me. Yeah, and then the fucking eye at the center fucking slaps. Yeah. This is cool as shit.
It's cool as shit. I was actually looking at the merch page. I love Ricky Jets merch. I'm going to buy some. The only I wish this was huge on a shirt.
Yeah, I actually looked at the
chest.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just one of those like over the left booby like ones with like,
I don't know.
You know,
I think I want
big
this
on the back.
I think I want it. They have a sweater that's Rookie Jet Studios that has it right here, but I think I want the sweater with this on it.
Yeah.
You know,
I have so many black crew necks, and I would definitely rock this on a black crew neck. But yeah, if there's a red giant one I want super fucking bad. It's the one that's got like the screaming mouth on like a red background. If that was totally. Like if that was an entire full front panel, bought it in a second. I'd have bought it in a second. So I'm thinking I'm gonna rock get the red giant one and the Rookie Jet one. But again, if that one, just in case Rookie Jet's listening, hey Corey, if this logo was huge on a t-shirt and then the screaming red giant one was huge on a t-shirt, snatch in a heartbeat. But again, as he just said, it says any man's death diminishes me because I'm involved in mankind. Circle, circle, circle. And it's got this open eye in the middle. It's stunning. I love that it's like the only thing on this page, and then just has the credits in the bottom. Corey Burns, who we just spoke to, is game designer and writer. Jean Verne, great layout artist. Follow them on Twitter. They put out some amazing content. Some fantastic layout, and we already talked about Mon, the artist, in this very anime style.
Really great art. I mean, like, I know we're going to say this, but like, there's not like a ton of art in this book, but man, the pieces are really good. Also, you know, shout out this next page because you know we're going to point out that is in this book.
Oh,
this motherfucker hyperlinked this shit.
It is hyperlinked. You know, we love a good hyperlink. I am and will. You know what? I'm putting it on a post-it note, so you know it's got a 30% chance of getting done. I am going to work on some merch for the weekly scroll that's just got our name across it, and then the hand, when on a PDF it turns from like the you know, the little space where you can type in.
Oh, it does.
And then when you roll over a hyperlink, it turns into a hand. I want to do a shirt that's got the weekly scroll logo that's just got that hand over it, so it looks like the logo is hyperlinked.
Oh.
And then, because we don't even have any, I mean, we theoretically have merch on a store that no one ever looks at, but I don't even have any. So TWS.
I have a glass.
Hyperlink merch. Oh yeah, my wife made you a dope glass. I don't even have one of those.
I drink beer out of that thing, so.
No. I think the problem is is it black or white on the writing?
White.
Yeah. I don't know why I don't have one of those in. Hey.
Wait, maybe it's black. I don't know. I gotta look. I don't know. I drink smoothies and beer out of it. I have it. Yeah. So
there you go. Hey,
okay,
my
but
wife who doesn't listen to the podcast,
message.
If you're listening, make me a cup. Anyway, yes, like you just said. So it is hyperlinked. Oh, do we have bookmarks? Is another question. Do we got them bookmarks? Nope. That is page thumbnails. No bookmarks. It's only 40 pages. But you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it really is. I mean, the design notes hit about 38, and so past that, I mean, like, you know, that's all like optional reading. You should always read those things. So really, it's a very tight, concise game.
It is tight, so tight.
So tight.
Yeah. Hyperlinks, no bookmarks. We'll start there. Love the hyperlinks, so thank you. Intro, character creation, parasite creation, playing the game, enemy creation, and then the design notes in the back. I really enjoy the designer notes in this book too.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it feels like a little bit of a GM section, and it's like if you run a game, you run a game. But last time I read designer notes where I was like, oh, these are actually like really good to read was when we read, I think it was Nova from Spencer. There were some really good insights in the back of those. And I will say the book is not super long, but there is some there are some pages that are very dense and some pages that are much more stylized. And right off the bat is this page that is a little bit more dense. So I'm going to read. It's basically the entire premise of the system. So I think it's important to go over parts of it. So empty cycle on a red page, all the pages in this are red. So the white really pops off of it, which is really, really nice. Yeah. So empty cycle. Empty cycle focuses on the mental and existential issues of being a teenager and growing to maturity in a boring town where there is nothing to do. Empty cycle draws heavily upon the melancholy and existential crises we face as teenagers in such a place and uses these focal points of loneliness and uncertainty and sadness in order to craft a meaningful and action-packed journey. Suddenly, everything changes when otherworldly beings known as parasites arrive on Earth and begin to affix themselves to our protagonists in order to survive. Parasites are humanoid, planet-hopping alien beings that are able to take on a new human form based on their host's complex emotions and desires, often using an attractive appearance to persuade and influence their host for mutual gain between the two life forms. However, there is another set of beings known as the parasites and epic agency known as Reapers. These Reapers, much like their parasite counterparts, look remarkably human and almost angelic, yet they possess extraordinary abilities, much like their parasite counterparts. A Reaper's goal seems to be solely to eradicate the parasites, while the parasites resist and find suitable hosts in order to utilize their own parasitic abilities. Once the parasites arrive, strange events begin to happen within the town, ranging from a robot attacking you through a TV screen to a giant hand falling onto your town from outer space. No one knows what causes these events, but you have a feeling it has something to do with the parasites and Reaper's presence in your world. In a way, parasites represent the character's maturity or desire for maturity, while Reapers and other elements may represent the things these characters suppress within themselves. Empty Cycle is a short but deep-seated game that aims to incorporate symbolism in every turn and action. Boom.
Boom. God, you know what? I know I'm already, we go through Rookie Jet games and I sit here, I'm like, what anime series could I run in this? Cause it's very, they are very open formats, like different, like they are definitely anime games, but he's really good about not pinning it down as like, this is this one anime game. And we talked about this stuff, but like, I'm just like, oh man, there's this really corny old manga called D and Angel. And I could totally see it being ran this. And I don't know if anyone knows it. Ryan, you would hate the shit out of it. But it's a kid who like transforms into this thief at night. And like, oh dude, I could see that being run in this. Sounds perfect for that.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but
yeah, it's because it was really low level, like manga from the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, but yeah, I don't know. Just looking at I don't think it's quite mine. You know what I thought right away was, I mean, I know it's very obvious because it's Parasite, but Parasite, like the absolutely. Fucking horror anime. Totally. Like you instead of having it be like a very pretty, like whatever, like this thing, like in the fucking anime, it attaches to them, but they can like warp their shape with that. Like you could easily run this as like Parasite kind of horror, like anime as well. But as you said, I haven't seen that at all, though. I actually really enjoyed it. It's pretty good. It's gory, which I fucking love. Like a lot of times, like if you look at my anime search history, it's top 10 goriest enemies, top 10 darkest enemies, top 10 like most depressing top animes. 10 H animes, Yeah. Yes. But like we were talking about in the interview, a lot of it may be like Red Giant, for example. You could easily run Vampire Hunter D. You could easily run Berserk. Obviously, those are inspirations for it. But I think someone said it in chat. Claymore is such an incredibly underrated manga. Absolutely. Because the anime was done dirty at the very end. Totally. And but Claymore is like one of my favorite mangas of all time. It's got some of my favorite characters of all time in it. I would love to run that style in that. But yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So moving forward. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll do the next page. I'm here. I'm hanging out. Get it. Do it. So in Empty Cycle, players will need the following. Obviously, you're gonna need blank paper for character sheet, or printed character sheet, a set of polyhedral dice. I don't know if you've ever heard of those, or obviously dice rolling out, pencils, 1 to 2 players, and 1 GM. Interesting, it's 1 to 2 players. It's like a very small group, you know? And this works like other Rookie Jet games. So if you've heard us go over them, you're going to hear us go over it again. Players will make use of D4, D6, and D8 to begin a game. Each die is going to be assigned to an individual stat. That's how stats work in this game. Player characters and parasites, respectively, for both player characters and parasites, respectively, in order to make various checks. These stats can be used interchangeably or together as a junction to surpass everyday obstacles, enemies, and otherworldly events. Empty Cycle is very adaptable and can be used in a myriad of ways to suit your tabletop game, as the core of the system allows you to control 2 entities as 1 character. Empty Cycle also comes with a decent amount of information that will be helpful in aiding both GMs and players in understanding the inner workings of Empty Cycle systems purpose throughout this book. I mean, seriously, like Parasite, yeah, you could do like a mech thing where it's like a living mech that you have or transform into. There is a world that you can get into. A ton of stuff, you know.
And like you just said, it's interesting that it's only that you could. This is one of those ones you can do GM in 1 player. We've seen some other games that are doing that lately. Another kind of Berserk inspired game, Sacrifice, where it's really meant to be GM in 1 player. But it's interesting because you're not, even if with 1 player, you're not just 1 character. Like it's specifically supposed to be 2 really fleshed out characters between the teenager and their parasite, and the ability to flip between and use both. So even with only 1 GM, 1 player, there's 2 characters, and even with 2 players, there's up to 4 characters, which is really neat because that's kind of a whole party right there. It's just 4 full characters.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that that's the kind of direction it went. Because I also imagine if you had 4 players, you'd have 8 fucking characters at the table. It starts to get to be a lot, especially since there's times
your 2 personalities talking to each other. It's like we have 4 people with their 2 personalities talking to each other. So
yeah, and there's times where the GM can take over the parasite. So in order to kind of corral everything, I think having like a much smaller party would really lend itself into that. So I mean, obviously 1 player, but, you know, having 2 to give kind of like a little bit of balance with like different personalities and stuff would be awesome. So I definitely would love to play this with like 3 people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving into character creation.
Starting the book the way every good book is started, starting with character creation.
I always forget which side I'm on until we start, and then I'm like, nah, rules. But again, a different and beautiful piece of art here. I just love the style. It's gorgeous. It's very sketchy, but refined. I don't know how to describe it besides that. And then even the layout itself, I really enjoy the way it's done with specifically this page for Podcast Land. The piece of art is this girl in a dress with cut off sleeves from about thighs up, you know, kind of in an anime pose, taking up like 2/3 of the right of the page, but on the left has this black block. It says character creation, but it's aimed up, and then underneath it is some writing. It's just very graphic designed, I guess. It's not 2 columns.
Listen, it looks fucking good. Okay.
It does. It's laid out really well. I enjoy that. Since we do score layout in this podcast, I like the layout. It looks really fucking good. So, do you want to take character creation, or do you want?
Yeah. Within Empty Cells, players assume the role of a teenager. Your character can do all the things a normal teenager can do, nothing more and nothing less. When creating your character, you will begin by generating your character stats and then choosing 2 traits that best describe your character, the character you want to play, right? Characters in Empty Cycle should take on the role of a common teenager with their own personality. The core of any RPG is the character you'll be personifying. In this game, you'll design a character using your own imagination and apply different traits and stats to them based on your selection. Answer some of the questions below at the table to get the game going. When designing your character for use in Empty Cycle, it is important to make them feel like they truly exist and live within the town. This can be accomplished by answering a few questions and writing down the results. And so basically, like the core of this is that you're making a teenager slice of life that actually exists. Like the questions are, when did your character move this town? Have they always lived there? What their social circles are like? Are they popular? Are they reclusive? What kind of hobbies do they carry on? Are they part of school clubs? Like if you have watched any animes where they're in high school, like this is exactly that. And it's very interesting because I feel like, and maybe this is just my own personal experience of high school, there's less school clubs in my own experience of high school than I do see in anime. And I'm like, damn, it actually looks like a lot of fun.
It does look like a fun, but we live in fucking America where they even get rid of gym in school, much less having fucking clubs and after school clubs and shit like this.
I really
love the fuck out of clubs.
That. Yeah, like they have a school clubs or a thing. Like, and moving on, like what kind of insecurities your character had? What do they feel confident about? Like, what are their lifelong dreams? What are they scared of? What's their family life? Like, what are their secrets? How do you ground this teenager in their small town? And moving on to the following pages, you're gonna find additional steps in order to finalize this character. On your character sheet, you will assign a D4, D6, and D8 to each of your character's 3 stats as you see fit. Begin by assigning your highest die value to your most desired stat and continue on. If you're already familiar with empty cycle, you may go ahead and assign die value to your parasite as well. So
real quick, before moving forward, this is the thing we're going to hit. But there is multiple times in this book where they specifically say this is what they imagine this game running is to really, really, really personify your character, like role play the character, get deep into who the teenager is. It's not, you can third party whatever, but it sounds like the intent from the creator is to literally like try to play as a teenager or as your parasite as much as possible and really go in depth in your RP and really get a sense of who they are and what they are as a teenager, because a lot of us aren't anymore, but we were, and just because we're also in our 30s now doesn't mean we don't have existential crises, so we can really funnel that. But I really feel like to really get the most out of this game, there are some games where like everyone can play this, but to get the most out of it, I think it takes kind of a really specific group of people. So I would definitely want to play this game with the people that are like just going to go fucking hard as shit. Like I would rock it like a fucking school uniform and fucking everything if I was going to play this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I super agree. I think this is it's funny. You would go over so many games where it's like, especially because we're so part of the OSR scene, and so much of that scene is like, you don't have to fucking role play. I'm gonna kill this guy here pretty soon.
You need a goddamn name.
His name is Jim Bob the Third because the second died in that last trap. But yeah, so I do like that. It is cool to lean into actual role playing. I think there's space in the space for that to still exist.
Absolutely.
Moving forward. As we always are in life, you know what I'm saying, brother? Stats determine your character's likelihood to accomplish a task, right? We understand how stats work in a tabletop game.
You roll dice.
Totally makes sense. Kind of anything where you're going to incur the risk of failure is when you're going to like use a stat. Your character stats are phys, which is physical, mind, and soul. That belongs to your character, and complex, desire, and emotion belong to your parasite. Your character is able to use soul in order to create junction checks or enter spill state, which we'll get to. So physical is your physical stat.
It's physical stuff.
It is for anything you do with strength or agility. It's going to be any physical task. It's going to be physical. It's amazingly well named stat. Your mind stat is for.
Oh no, keep going.
Your mind stat is for anything you use your mind for. If you're witty, smart, intelligent, solving puzzles, mentally demanding tasks. Once again,
pretty straightforward. Body and mind.
Fantastically well named stat. Soul. Soul is a unique one. This stat determines how many times you can summon your parasite. It is that's what it does. To assist you in a scene or combat. Soul is never used for checks. It really is just it's something you use just for summoning. It's a gauge, I think is how, it says right here. Yep. It's like a gauge of how much power you have to summon. Any value slot to soul stat is doubled. Soul is recovered anytime your character gets a full night's rest. So you spend it. It's a spendable thing to summon your parasite. Yeah, it's a pool. It's a pool.
You really get you really get 2 stats in a pool. So you get like
2 stats in a pool, baby. Yeah, love it.
You get your body, you get your mind. So body, mind, and soul are classic 3 stats. It's interesting that you really just have physical and mind and a pool. But you still assign a dice to it as if it was a stat. It's cool that it's kind of like a stat that really only acts as a pool. Which is an interesting way to do it.
I think that there are stats in the other Rookie Jet games where it's also like you assign a die to it and you just double that and it becomes the value of that stat. It might be like health and stuff, but I'm pretty sure that's a consistent theme within Rookie Jet's like structure for die. I mean, I really like how he structures how dice are used. And I know we talked about it being pulled from that game I've never playlayed.
Ryutama.
Or yeah.
It's called Ryutama.
Yeah, Ryutama. And I really enjoy how it's done. Moving forward, complex. This stat represents the underlying ego within your character that the parasite has drawn their personality from. Complex is used in junction with your character stats in order to bring out their inner ego and channel this into succeeding their task. I think we get to junctions here in a little bit, but it's the stat using. I'm out of focus.
You're being a blurry boy tonight.
There we go. Hello. I've been really blurry today. I don't know what's going on. It's just I'm in an emotional state. I'm very blurry. Desire or this stat represents the secret wants and needs that dwell within your character that the parasite draws their appearance from. So whatever desire, it draws their sexy appearance from your parasite anime waifu. Desire is used in junction with your character stats in order to manifest these desires and channel this into succeeding their tasks. Emotions or emo. I do. Oh, come on. Bring back non-blurry hunter. I don't know what's going on. I'm not even really like moving all that much or anything. So emotion or emo, the same. I'm wearing a Law's t-shirt. It's the same. This stat represents the raw feelings and fragility that sleep inside your character that the parasite has drawn their own feelings from. Emotion is used in junction with your character stats in order to manifest these feelings and channel them into succeeding their tasks. Cool. Personality and appearance. On your character sheet, make sure to fill in what your character, what you want your character to look like and how your character behaves. Maybe your character is stylish but shy. Maybe they dress sloppily but they're loud. Like me. I'm in this book.
You are. Look at that.
These details you would like, and use this as a reference throughout the game to introduce your character to the rest of the group. Would you like to take over?
Yeah. So getting into traits. Traits determine your personality and quality. They're traits. They define anything that is explicitly stated. Whenever you are in a situation where you have an owned trait, you actually get to add, you get to gain advantage. So you roll your check twice. So there's a list of traits here on the page. You get to check 2 of them. They're interesting. So and very varied, but obviously when you hear them, it makes sense. So you could be athletic, sly, depressed, uptight, nerdy, motivated, curious, angry, any of those things. So it's a plethora of teenage emotions, and a little bit of it's a trait. It's like you're the athletic kid, you're the nerdy kid, you're the bad guy, you're whatever it is. So pick one or come up with your own, but you get 2. And again, if you have traits, this will come up again later, you get advantage anytime that trait is there. So if you're flirty, you get advantage when you flirt. If you're athletic, you get advantage when you're athleting. So it is what it is. So there are a couple of interesting pages, like the next one.
Ryan, you can make anything sound kind of dumb.
Hey, listen. I agree. So there's a couple pages like this. I like these pages; they're interesting. It's a little quote. Really, it's the only thing on the page. There's a little bit of layout aspects to it. Red, some white. This says myself in big writing. Underneath it says, "Will I be able to fulfill the one who waits for me now? In spite of me being unable to understand, I'm selfishly disappointed." Yeah. Sounds like real life.
I too was a teenager.
Yeah. So Parasite Creation, this is similar to, this is a new heading page, the same layout as the last one, but it is a different piece of art. It is a great piece of art. This is one of my favorite. I mean, it's hard. There's like 5-6 pieces of art that are used over and over again. It's hard to pick a favorite because they're all really well done.
Yeah, they are really well done.
But this one is like this like maid kind of looking girl with a giant pack of something on her back. I assume some type of weapon or whatever. I always picture that. I picture this as a parasite in the game. So Parasite Creation, you play 2 roles, right? So the who you are as a teenager, you only get to do what teenagers do. But as a parasite, you get to do extraordinary things to the limit of what they are capable of doing. But the character creation is the same basically for a parasite. It's just a different set of stats that we talked about in the last one, but we'll go over those again. There is a whole page here about parasites that I'm just going to kind of sum up as we go through. So parasites are, they trot across the cosmos, fleeing from planet to planet to get away from the Reapers. Not much is known by the Epoch Agency concerning either of their existences. One thing I will say is we get what parasites are pretty early. We get what Reapers are pretty early, but the Epoch or Epic Agency is not really explained until much later in the book. I think an explanation earlier on of the Epic Agency would have been nice. And as far as I understand, it is the kind of like global government / police force of where you are. So they're basically the people on Earth that understand, that protect us from like alien invasions and shit. But that doesn't come up until later. I think maybe even in the design notes, maybe before that. A little bit of an explainer of that earlier would have been nice, even in this section here. Or maybe it is in this section here. I don't think it is. So parasites take the human forms. They're super contagious. Even a simple handshake, kiss, cough, anything like that can get one of these parasites inside of you. They want to live within you and try to avoid the Reapers. But in order to do that, they will often try to befriend their host or even flirt with them or offer assistance or in some way, shape, or form be a good parasite, basically. What's it called when you have a symbiotic relationship with these parasites to be beneficial for both of you is what they try to do. It is possible for the parasite to break free or you to break free from your parasite if there is immense trauma, mental or physical, but for the most part, they are where they are and they can't travel far from you. They, as I said, they will try to help you. They have superhuman abilities. They utilize your raw emotional and mental energy in order to do those, in order to use those superhuman abilities, and they can manifest at times to help you in bad situations. And during empty cycle, the GM and the player will interchangeably control the parasite depending on the situation. So if it's at a point where the parasite would be taking over or doing something kind of outside of the player's control, the GM could take over and see what they're doing. But for the most part, it feels like the player will control their parasite. Still trying to make sure that the parasite and the player are distinct entities within the game. And that's why, again, there's fewer players.
I could see this being a challenge for somebody who's newer to role playing for sure.
That's what I'm saying.
You're gonna have to talk to yourself. I feel like you and I could probably swing that like fine. And we have a bunch of friends that could, but maybe if you're your first like step into this tabletop role playing space, like being 2 distinct different characters might be a lot.
I think it will be, and I think that just in general, that's how a lot of these TTRPGs are. Like, whenever I taught, let's say 5th edition, for example, early on, I always had people just do the standard array, because if you've never played a game before, do you know the difference between 8 wisdom and 12 wisdom? You know what I mean?
No.
Like
no, because the difference is actually a modifier and not the actual number itself. So
exactly, it's a modifier. So like the understanding of what the numbers mean and how you should act and stuff like that. One of the things I enjoy about this game too is D4, D68 are the dice that you assign to the stats, but I don't feel like that really necessarily gives a huge emphasis on who you are as a player outside of the number one. It specifically says in the beginning, give the highest one to the one you want to emphasize the most.
Yes.
So if you give it, and really outside of the soul, which really is just a pool that you can use for your parasite, it's just physical and mental, really. So it's like, do you want to be a athletic kind of like skill-based character, or do you want to be like a smart, potentially nerdy kind of character, and then dig deep into that? But you don't have 6 stats, you don't have a score plus a modifier, you don't have all of that other bullshit, so you can really dig deep. I think you, me, and Andy would rock the shit out of this game.
I think me and Andy would actually rock the shit out of this. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so, I'd be interested to see what Andy made for this. I'm pretty sure.
Well, we know cool. Andy was a theater kid, and he's a fantastic role player and player just in general. He's an awesome player.
Sometimes we play with Andy, I'm like, wow, I fucking am not as good at role playing as Andy is. But that's
dude,
okay.
I got to GM him for like 2 fucking years, dude. It was great. Awesome player. I love Andy to death.
Let me tell you, when I make a character in this game, I'm gonna make a guy who's wearing glasses and goes, all the time.
And then sometimes they'll turn their head slightly and they'll just be like whited out with like the glare. Yeah. Absolutely. Something that doesn't transition well into movies, and that's why Sin City looked fucking terrible. So talking about Parasite, going on to, so this is a great piece of art. It is, and I think the same person that's on the cover, right? This person here, who I always assume is a parasite, because this little girl figure is looking up kind of like, I don't know, questioningly / lovingly / something at this character. But in this picture, they look kind of evil. Like they're looking down kind of at you. Like the chin is tilted up. They have the smirk on their face. The hair is all crazy. Even the way that it's shaded has this kind of like burst underneath them. So they definitely have this very like kind of
to it.
Yeah, there's like a malevolence to it that I really love. And the eyes are red, which they are in the other one too. But for some reason, it just like, since you only see the top half of them, it looks fucking badass. And it says parasite underneath it. So this is my assumption of the parasite. So we talk about the stats a little bit more in depth. Actually, not the stats for the parasite, but again, the stats for a parasite are desire, complex, and emotion. Those are the things that the parasites feed on you in order to power themselves, right? Again, your character has physical, mind, and soul. So on top of that, you get 3 other things for your parasite. You get a personality, you get an item, and you get goals. So the personality that you create in the beginning is really important in how they act and how your teenager, who's just a fucking teenager with no special abilities, acts around your parasite. When determining your parasite's personality, you should take a look at your character that you've already created and what they wish to be, because don't forget, the parasites feed on you, your desires, your complexes, your emotions. So whatever you want the most, your parasite might get that. Again, anime waifus. So look into that, and you can also look into some shapes or forms or someone that your character ultimately despises as well. So base your personality of your parasite off of what you think your character would want, which I do also think is going to be difficult for newer players. Right. To be like, not only do I need to create a character, I need to create a parasitic character off of those character traits in order to create that. So you also get an item so that you can character around. It's supposed to be useful to you in combat and symbolic of what the character desires to be. Again, feeding off of the character to build this parasite. The item can range from a guitar, skateboard, or even a traditional fan. The choice is yours. Love the concept of guitar. Obviously not a fulukuli. Really, really cool. This item provides no additional benefit mechanically, but is used narratively in order to provide a deep dive into the character's psyche. Again, your parasite is just these drawn out kind of embodiments of what your teenager wishes they were. And then goals. Each parasite has a goal of living a quiet life, from living a quiet life to conquering the galaxy, but also fleeing the reapers that are after you. So each character should be just as unique as your character, or each parasite should be, with underlying goals of their own, and these goals can be simple or complex. You record these results on your character sheet, and then you move on to creating your spell, which is interesting. So there are 4 types of parasites which are interesting: a psi type, a zeta type, an upsilon type, and a delta type.
There's the sigma,
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Beta, Alpha, and Sigma are not in here just because
of
how douchey people are. I think that
might be almost like by design, you know?
Well, I think the most interesting thing is the whole concept of like alpha wolf, which where alpha male came from, has been scientifically disproven continuously over and over again. And the whole concept of Sigma is just the dumbest shit I've ever fucking heard.
It's not based on anything that's real at all.
Literally nothing. It's just
a bunch of dudes with it's a bunch of white dudes with podcasts talking to themselves.
Yeah, fucking douchey white dudes with podcasts. Oh man, did you see the new Joker movie? That's totally me. I'm Sigma. Eat a dick, you fucking douchebag.
Listen, when he shot those guys because they were making fun of him, that really spoke to me.
Oh man, that's totally me. Fucking idiot. So the psi type is calm parasite that thrives off knowledge and intellect. They inherently gain advantage to any checks involving intellect. So there's a list of all there's accuracy die, damage die, and a specific spill, which is an ability we'll go over each time in the future. We'll go over in a second. So for this one, on the psi type, the calm intellectual type, it's mind and desire for accuracy, mind and complex for damage. Your spill, you ignore trauma when active, which we'll go over, which is interesting. Zeta type are feisty. They thrive off emotions and strength. They get advantage for persuasion. Their accuracy die is physical and desire, and their damage dice is physical and emotion. I like that there are basically it's fizz or mind for just about all of them. But it's interesting how it's a little bit different. And so, example, the damage dice is physical plus emotion, because one is your character stat, physical. One is your parasite type.
Yeah.
So then upsline type, they're carefree and they throw off ego and dexterity. They advantage on acrobatics. So their accuracy is physical and emotion. The damage is physical and complex. But your spill is your attack always hits when active, which is another neat one. And then delta type is a calculating parasite that thrives off wit and greed. So this is another mind type. You get an advantage on deceit checks, and it's mind complex for accuracy, mind desire for damage. And your spill is you ignore damage when active. Really interesting. It's really neat how they tweaked the two stats. You have two physical, two mental, two mind. But it's neat how the
parasite stats like interplay with those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the advantage you get from it and the spill you get from it too. It's really well done. It's really well crafted. Obviously well thought out. So it's really interesting. Do you want me to keep going or you want to hit spill?
Spill. Yeah, I'll do spill.
All right.
Spills in M cycle are performed when player characters and their respective parasites synchronize and temporarily fuse together into a being that reflects the current state of the character's psyche. When performing your spill, your character and parasite fuse together into a being that is able to take the form of anything from a humanoid robot to a gigantic plush animal. The choice of appearance is up to the players and the GM. A spill occurs when a character is in great danger and can be activated by the character announcing they would like to perform a spill. Once this has been announced, the parasite turns into a liquid-like substance and consumes the character from the ground up, beginning the fusion between the two beings. A spill is only possible. A spill is only possible to perform when you have more than two soul, because that is your gauge, right, for doing these, for taking this action. For each turn you remain in the spill state, you will deduct 2 soul from your total remaining soul. To exit a spill state, the player must first make an exit check, because that's right, you can get stuck. By rolling their highest character stat and their highest parasite stat against a target number of 8 until they match or surpass this number. They must remain in spills, or sorry, until they match or surpass that target number, they must remain in the spill state. There's an example. If you have 12 soul and into the spill state, you will lose, or I will lose 2 soul for 6 turns and will automatically exit the spill state on the end of the 6th turn, unless I can escape the spill state by making a successful exit check. So you basically just run down the gauge until you have none, unless you can exit. During the spill state, your character possesses general superhuman abilities like that of a parasite, but greatly amplified. In addition to this, each parasite type has a special ability like we talked about before. Example being like the Delta type, which in spill ignores damage when it's active.
This is neat. I like it.
Yeah, it's super cool.
I would put a period right here though, because it kind of it was a little confusing the first time I read it through too. To say that to exit a spill state, the player must first make an exit check by rolling their highest character stat and highest parasite stat against a target number of 8, period. Until they match or pass this target number, they must remain in the spill state. So how I read this, and tell me if I'm completely wrong. Let's say that you have let's say you have like 12 soul. You put a 6 there, right? Okay. So if you go into your spill state, it takes 2 to do that. And then for each turn you remain in the spill state, you deduct 2. So every turn that comes around, if you start with 12, you automatically go to 10. And then next turn you deduct to 8. Next turn you deduct to 6. Next turn you deduct to 4. Next turn you deduct to 2. Next turn you deduct to 0. If you don't want to literally wind all of your soul down for the entire day, because once you hit 0, you're kicked out of the spill state.
Yeah, until you get a full night's rest. Yes.
But if you say 3 turns in, right, you don't want to be in spill state anymore, you want to go back to regular, you can do an exit check, jump out, and then still have like,
some left over,
6 or 8 souls so that you can use it again in the future. That's my understanding.
Did it say that it took 2 to enter? Because I did say that you needed at least 2 in your...
Oh, maybe it doesn't take to enter. Maybe it's spent. Just you need it for the first turn.
Because you need the 2 for that turn.
So yeah, I think you're right. You don't lose 2 right off the bat. You just have to have 2 because at the end of the first turn, it's gone anyway.
Yes.
So you don't. Okay. But yeah, so that's my understanding, is that it takes 2 every round to maintain it. You can run it all the way out to 0 if you want, but you have no soul left for the day. And if you ever want to exit it early, you have to succeed on that check, so you don't spend it all in one shot and then have nothing till bedtime.
Right.
Okay. All right. I think that's great, because I think if you're in like a really shit situation, my question too is though, what if you end combat? My thought is that I would keep making the player roll to try to finish it off. Yeah. And basically just be like, oh, you only have 6 left. All right, 3 checks, or you were just like,
listen, bro, that's fight raw out of it right there, dog. Yeah. That's rules is written, baby.
And try to, and I just imagine someone RPing, like finishing the combat, beating the final guy or whatever, but then like trying to go back to their normal form, get this thing to go back to liquid and go back to whatever, and just like failing and doing whatever, or like succeeding and having like a whole like moment with it. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, yeah. Cool. I dig this spell state. I think it's really, really, really cool. Really well done.
We have another one of those pages that has like a quote in the center, and it's kind of like stylized, and instead of like kind of the round white areas, it's got these sharper white triangles in this with the red background. You know what I'm saying? The other, barefoot, I can't walk through the crowd, even though I put on some shoes and try to jump a little. There's too many of them. Does the asphalt still remember who I used to be? Every day, it's like the sun is even higher and brighter. Sick. Yeah. So now we're at playing the game, and we have the same art piece that was at the top of Parasite chapter.
Oh, you know what I kind of noticed about this too, and maybe I'm completely wrong.
Tell me.
Does it look like they've taken damage on their right shoulder? Does it look like that shoulder's like blasted off, like something just?
Yeah, I could see. I could see that. Yeah.
And it almost looks like, because it's red coming off of it too, it looks like it's almost been blasted and like, forward. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to take over playing the game?
Yeah. Playing the game. The subsequent pages contain information on how to play the game, and expands concepts on the Epic Agency, GA, Reapers, etc. First time we hear about GA, which are really neat. When starting the game, you play the game. Role play. This is what I was talking about earlier. A ttrpg. Is Rookie Jet someone I notice who always writes this like this? When I write tabletop role play game, I call it ttrpg, but I've always noticed that they write trpg. Do you see that a lot anywhere else?
Nope.
I mean, it makes sense because tabletop is one word.
Tabletop is one word.
But I do always write ttrpg. Anyway. It says a tabletop game, as you may know, is a game in which you act out your character. Simply believe it is make believe. So that is what a role play game is. We talked about it a second ago. A lot of OSR games, a a lot of it's more focused on the play and the mechanics. Like, I loved when we played Victory Basic, where it's just like, okay, you don't really need a name. You can just be Hunter the Rogue, whatever. Like, you know, keep going. But I still enjoy roleplay, and I think this would be fun. So Empty Cycle highly encourages you to roleplay as your character and Parasite to add more depth to the game. This can be speaking in unique voices, or simply staying what your character Parasite is doing, or how they are relaying information to another in the game. So, like, the emphasis on first-person RP, but, you know, obviously you can do third-person if you want. I'm a huge fan of first-person RP. Third-person really takes me out of it. If you're playing in a whole game of like 4 people that are doing voices and accents, and one person that's 3Ping, it takes you out a little bit. So before starting the game, each player should have an idea of how they can roleplay as both of their characters. You'll generally play as both, but when making a junction, it requires their character's help. So if your character is trying to impress a classmate, but does not have the required traits or stats to do so, you can make a junction with the Parasite to do so. During this time, your Parasite may enter the scene, provide a scenario for your character to impress a classmate by faking a fall, flirting, reassuring, whatever. So again, you have physical, mind, and soul, but your character has complex emotion, desire, like all those kind of things. So you can use your character stats by making this junction. There's another example about sneaking. There may be sometimes when a Parasite should not emerge or make themselves known. This could provide players with a sense of risk to actually using the Parasite in some certain situations. So if everyone's looking at you and your Parasite just happens to pop out, could be embarrassing. Could be weird. Yeah. Don't walk up to the board. So possibility on influence. Is your Parasite timid, outgoing, mischievous? Did it take a second? Did you get it?
It took me a second. I got there.
All right. Is your Parasite timid, outgoing, mischievous? It could influence your Parasite's interactions with your character. Timid Parasite may hesitate. I'm glad you got it. Yeah, so basically, really think about what your Parasite is, what the influence is, and how that your Parasite, who is really built off of your desires, affects your character in reverse. So there are 4 game phases to Empty Cycle. There's a social phase, the object event phase, the combat phase, and the conclusion phase. And they can be flowed in any order. It doesn't have to be in that order. They are just the 4 phases that you could possibly be in. So we're going to go into those a little bit more. So here's, I think this is a section I saw that was potentially a typo. It says like, without using the game phases structure, this, and then there's like half an empty line, and then it goes down one. But this may help players on all skill levels determine what they need to accomplish at the given moment in the game.
Is that the physical?
Oh, I don't know. Is it in the physical?
I'm looking at something inside of Overarms real quick. I'm just trying to compare.
It is. It's the same. So here are explanations of the 4 phases. So social phase is obviously when you're being social. You're speaking to another person, whether it's one of the various NPCs or something like that. Characters can travel around asking about recent events, forming out plans, do what it is. It is when you're being social and talking to other people. That's what it is. Object event is interesting. An object event phase is used when an object event has created an imminent threat to the town or people within it. So like they said earlier, like a giant hand falling out of the sky or a guardian angel coming down or something like that. Those are object events. It's when there is not necessarily combat, but something big is happening and you're trying to figure it out. Something devastating is happening to the city. Yeah,
it's like the plant in the middle of the city starts, but a bunch of steam comes out, and like a giant robot comes out of your head and starts attacking you.
Exactly like that. So characters should focus on eliminating the threat by any means possible by utilizing the Parasite's ability and power. So this is more of like a meta threat here, as opposed to combat, which is more of like interpersonal situation.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
The next phase is a combat phase, and it's when you fight stuff. You know, it's confrontation. And the conclusion phase is used typically after a major revolution or when ending the session. During that phase, the GM is expected to narrate the event so far and allow players to give their own recap if needed. This phase allows players to know that they have hit a milestone or moving forward to the next chapter. So it's kind of like it says a conclusion, but it's also kind of the transition. What's up?
It's funny because I have Overarms open, which also has 4 phases. but instead of the object phase as investigation, because it's a little bit different of a game. But it's like because the conclusion phase is like word for word exactly the same, which totally makes sense, and I have no issue with that. But it's funny because I was reading it here as you were saying it, I was like, a conclusion phase is typically used after a major revelation. You're like, oh yeah, it's exactly the same, which is great. I think for these styles of games, which these aren't exactly the same, but like they do have some hallmarks of like anime-esque games. I think these structure works incredibly well, especially if you're doing slice of life games, but you need to have that delineation between this thing happened and this thing happened.
Absolutely. I mean, I think so. Everyone knows combat. I love, like you said, that game is definitely more investigation based. This one definitely feels like the object event is such a good example of what to do, because I feel like there's a lot less investigation and more it's like reaction to this like crazy shit happening. But again, we've talked about this already. You know, there's this core kind of pulled from Ryutama, but a lot of the Rookie Jet games so far have like at its core very similar dice mechanics and systems and stuff like that. So if you played one Rookie Jet game, it's really easy to pick up another one, but they're all easy to pick up by themselves. So, but this one is definitely the sleekest, you know, the most minimal compared to Overarms, which is more, and Red Giant, which is, I think, easily the densest one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting into checks, and this is also very similar with the target numbers and stuff like that. So, checks are used to determine if you succeed or fail. That's how checks work. If you played the game before, you know how checks work. This one is a little different though, because you do add the 2 dice, and this one is based on the 2 different characters, like the character and the parasite, versus something like Red Giant, where it's 2 traits that are being used to come up with something from the same person. So it's a really good way to tweak the system.
I think in Overarms, you also, it's like, I think you can do checks where it's your anima and yourself as well. Right, the major difference is, and we were talking about this before we actually got a podcast, I forgot to ask again, is like in Overarms, the anima has no personality. Like it is like, it's your punchy ghost spirit. Like, you know,
But in this, it's supposed to have a very distinct
the parasite is a living entity that has its own motivations and personality. Yeah, which is cool.
Which is great.
Actually, and again, I can't really think of another game where, and maybe you usually know more than I do, but I can't think of another game where like you are made to make 2 distinct characters that work together but have their own motivations.
I feel like there are, and it's just like on the tip of my brain, and I can't think of one, but not like this, and in a way that it's so. I think a lot of it is more just like maybe hirelings that can be involved, but not really like this, where it's literally based, like you create a character and then create another character based on that character. You know what I mean? Like the depth. Yeah. So when a player makes a check, they may roll for their character alone or use a junction in order to roll higher at the cost of soul. Whenever a character attempts to do something without the parasite as a junction, they will roll their mind or physical stat and apply a trait for advantage if applicable. We talked about you get 2 of those at the start. So there's times where you can roll 2 dice, times where, well, again, so if it's just you without the parasite as a junction, you roll both your stats together and then add your advantage. But if you are trying to do a junction because you're using a stat that your parasite has better, you do that. So you always roll 2 dice no matter what. I mean, that's a hallmark of the system here. But it's whether you're using your parasite stat or 2 of your own stats to do so. The GM asks for checks. There's target numbers. You can get advantage and disadvantage in different situations, especially based on your traits. You roll, everyone knows what advantage is or disadvantage. You roll your dice twice and take the higher number. So there is a table here of listed target numbers. Simple target number is just 2. You don't even need to roll for simple. I think it says that earlier because it's impossible to not roll at least a 2 when you roll 2 dice, because that's how numbers work. But easy is target number 4, annoying is 6, troublesome 8, difficult 10, very hard 12, and impossible 14. Because if you think about like your average dice, you have a 4, a 6, and an 8, right? The highest you can get on a 6 and an 8 is 14. That's how math works. I felt dumb for 1 second, then I was like, no, I double checked myself. It's 14. So the only way to get this impossible check is to roll the highest on 2 dice on the 2 highest possible number stats you have. I guess you could theoretically roll a 16, because you could have an 8 on one of the parasite stats and an 8 on one of your stats, and you could theoretically roll a 16. Your 2 highest stats possible, right? And I guess that's what's interesting about the exit check too, since it's a target number 8 and you use your 2 highest stats from both your character and your parasite. It should always be 2 8s is what it should be. So there are some check examples here. Below are various check examples that you may reference when making or requesting a check. First stat listed for each represents a character. The second stat represents the parasite if you do an adjunction. So if you're doing something athletic, physical and emotional, right? Persuading, mind and desire. Intimidating, physique and desire. And hey, DM Susan, thank you so much for the raid, for coming in. We are reviewing Empty Cycle from Rookie Jet Studio. Et cetera, et cetera.
Real quick, it actually says right here, if your character is acting alone, they'll make the check by rolling the stat associated with their side of the example below. So
you think you just roll 1 die?
I do.
So when we go up to this section, when the GM requests a check, it is encouraged for the GM to assess the task and determine a target number. No. One more. When a player makes a check, they may roll their character alone or use a junction in order to roll higher. Whenever a character attempts to do something without their parasite as a junction, they will roll their mind or physical stat. You're right. Yeah. So just one die.
Makes the rolls a lot harder.
So there are times in this game versus the other games where because I don't think in any of the other ones you really only roll 1 die. You always roll 2 die.
I can't think of overarms right now, but yeah. I mean, Red Giant. Yes, you're correct.
Yes. Yeah. So interesting. It does make it a lot harder. You theoretically could roll less on a simple check.
Which makes sense. A regular human sucks at things. So. Yeah. No.
Sorry, real quick.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, so it's interesting. So basically, if you're doing your own thing, it's just physical or mind. But using a parasite, you have a lot more complexity involved with it, which is neat. Considering that I think these are most of the possible combinations that are listed here. Physical mind, emotion, desire, complex desire. Yeah. It's pretty much everything you could possibly do. So it's really interesting, and I do like the complexity of really just using 2 and 3 different things, adding them together, and finding out what intimidating, physical, and desire. It's just a great way to do it. It's really interesting on the nuance involved in that. Do you want to hit combat? You want me to keep going?
Yeah, absolutely. Combat. Sorry, I scrolled down. I was reading something else. Combat in Empty Cycle is usually rare and typically occurs when engaged or facing with a GA or Reaper. To begin combat, the GM will roll 1d6 for each player at the table and add the total between them. Then the players will each roll 1d6 and add the total between them. From here, both parties will compare their total results, and the party with the highest result will move first. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not doing that. I'm going to roll a d6, and y'all are going to roll a d6, and whoever has higher goes, because that's too many die for all hunter. During combat, characters call upon their parasite to fight alongside them by performing junctions if they have any hope to live. It is important for players to take advantage of using their parasite spill while monitoring their soul in order to make it out of combat alive. In order for a character and their parasite to deal damage, they must first make an accuracy check, which we have above during parasite types. Characters and their parasite will roll the die values associated with their accuracy die and add the total to make an accuracy check. 2 die add together. Once this is complete, the GM will roll their own accuracy check and add the total to determine if the attack is successful or not. Whenever a GA or Reaper attacks for their turn, simply repeat this process. Characters cannot make accuracy or damage checks against a GA or Reaper without their parasite. You need your parasite. Man, if you go into combat and you got no soul, you're leaving.
You fuck. That's why extra checks are so important, man. If you use your spill and then end up failing all of those checks until it's completely gone, you did fucked up.
Yeah. Upon a successful accuracy check, the target may then roll their damage die associated with the parasite type. When characters and their parasites deal any damage to a GA or Reaper, the GM will remove the total HP from the target. The GA or Reaper reaches 0. They are defeated. When characters and their parasites take damage from GA or Reaper, they will instead take damage in the form of traumas that will influence the character lives when role-playing and subsequently determine how close they are to perishing. And I believe that there is a parasite type that lets you ignore trauma when active. So trauma. Trauma in Empty Cycle can be thought of like status effects from other games that occur when the character takes damage from GA or Reaper. Trauma can come in several different forms, in individual different forms and individually. Is there a period right there? No, my
trauma can come in several different forms and individual trauma. No, yeah, you're just
beautiful. Yeah, trauma can even stack if not properly resolved. Whenever a character accumulates 5 or more trauma at once, the parasite within them goes berserk, turning on their host, consuming them in the process. Bum, bum, bum. When a trauma is inflicted by an enemy, the stats of both the character and parasite may be affected. It will be up to the player to determine what has happened to them. Here are some examples below. Did they fall from a great height? Did they feel abandoned by their parasite they've grown close to? Are they scared of the thing happening to the town? Are they injured? They still have the will to fight. Trauma places a great importance on the narrative, as the only way to recover from the trauma are to work them out narratively with your fellow characters. Once a character has resolved the trauma through role-playing, they may remove the afflicted trauma and the resulting effect. Very cool. Very role-play heavy. Like, reminds me of, I'm blanking on the name, but help me out, Ryan. Cowboy Bebop game.
Orbital Blues?
There we go. Orbital Blues, because like that's the way like your character works through trauma to get strong. You know, they work through
their blues and all that kind of stuff.
And their blues, yeah. So very cool. Not one-to-one, but reminiscent. Below is a table of trauma and their effects on characters and parasite. Feel free to create your own as well, but be mindful of your players' boundaries. That's a good note for this one. By discussing what you're all comfortable with before playing Anti-Cycle. That is true, and you can get into some touching on trauma in this. It is definitely a good idea to have a discussion before this one because, yeah, it's like
0 session, safety tools, you know.
Yeah. Talk to your table. The trauma table below, fear is a trauma, lowers the physical phys stat by 1 die size. Loneliness, mind stat by 1 die size. So pretty much all of these are just lower die size.
Yeah. And there's one for every stat, like the 2 for the characters and the 3 for the parasites.
Yeah.
I love that. I love when, like, okay, so 5e sucks, but like a lot of the, yeah, it does. A lot of the, there's so many fucking conditions and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's like everything under the sun. I love when there are, like this game specifically in a lot of different ways. You have physical and physical and mind, right? So you should have a character that's physical and mind. And all of these traumas, there's one for every type of dice because there's 5 total across your 2 characters. There's one for each one. So the conditions all make sense because it's specific to one stat that you've got the whole time. I really like when games feed into that, where like if you're gonna have like, you know, 4 stats, right, then there is some type of condition that affects each stat individually, and a character type that is exemplified by each stat individually. It feeds back into the game. It creates a loop that does well with the game.
I very much agree.
So getting into the Reapers, even less is known about Reapers and parasites, but they seem to be similar in many ways. The goal is to eliminate parasites that remain in the cosmos and will follow them to the ends of the universe to accomplish this goal. Although Reapers are said to look similar to angels, with some even possessing wings, Reapers see themselves as advanced life forms and hold little to no regard for other sentient life that are not Reapers. They will send guardian angels to planets that they suspect their target has landed on, and will use these guardian angels to locate the Reapers' targets and in some cases destroy them. Reapers possess several extraordinary and unique abilities, giving them access to power similar to parasites. Reapers do not require a host and can perform their abilities. So they're incredibly similar to parasites, but they don't require a host, and they want to kill parasites. Easy peasy. So GA, also known as Guardian Angels, are sent through space-time gateways known as Anno Domini, which is an interesting choice, the year of our Lord, which can be summoned by Reapers. Through these Anno Domini gates, Reapers are able to pull these beings to any location of their choice, making them a common threat to parasites. So this is really a way to pull in this greater threat from the Reapers, which it talks about here in a second, is a great way to do an object event. So Guardian Angels are equipped with weapons and abilities, although these are usually weaker than the full potential of a parasite. They usually make a strong entrance with either a large explosion somewhere in the town or by even blocking out the sun. I really enjoy this. This is something that feels very thematic. It feels very anime to just have this
massive,
kind of
dramatic, like, yeah, absolutely.
And they're super powerful. They can be summoned at any time. It's a really, really cool way. It feeds into the game, the themes, and the system well. I love this concept. It looks really fucking cool. And I love the idea that, like, you get taken over by this parasite, right, that generally likes to work with you so it can accomplish its goals, right? And the Reapers are the bad guys. But they look like angels. I love when things that look like good guys are bad guys.
Yeah.
It's just a cool trope, and I really, really enjoy it. And the concept of like a massive guardian angel thing coming down, and some people will be like, oh, this is so cool. And then it fucking starts killing everything. I love that. Love that idea. Getting into the epic agency epoch, whatever. So this is what I was talking about, where we, for the most part, Reapers and parasites are talked about early on. The first time you hit Guardian Angels, the next section talks about Guardian Angels, but we talk about epic agency pretty early on in the game. Right. A little blurb about it earlier would have been cool, but this is where it talks about explaining it. This is a global government-funded organization that focuses on tracking down extraterrestrial beings, objects, and monitoring abnormal events. So basically, you know, it is the global police, the global government, the global funded agency that worries about, it's the fucking X-Files is what it really feels like. And it tries to, but, you know, global funding. It tries to monitor all these events. So this feels like something that you would worry about too, because you got an alien inside you.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. This seems like a problem for you as well.
Everybody. Yeah. The epic agency's presence in the town increases residents, as the epic agency's presence in the town increases, residents may become agitated or worried. Certain roads or sites might be blocked. Epic agency members can be treated like any other NPC. They can use them for what it is. It's really interesting, kind of like foil NPC kind of thing you can use really anytime you want to add a little bit of spice or fuck some stuff up. You could be going about your business and suddenly there could be a blocked road and you're like, oh shit, they're here. What are they doing? That could be a chance for a little bit of investigation. A GA could be coming down. It's just a nice little plot point to throw into the game, and I think it's a really well done.
I think they're a good addition, and they make sense. They fit in really well, you know?
Yeah. There is a chart here, which I really like a roll table for the threat of them. So on a 1 to 2, they're just remotely monitoring the town. On a 3 to 4, they have an investigation team. On a 5 to 6, they have a remote base in town, and on a 7+, they control most of the town. I really, really like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Again, it's a cool way to, like, kind of on the fly or in prep, have something that really can alter the narrative a lot, pretty easily. Do you want me to do object events? You want to take?
Yeah, I mean, object events, OE are unexplainable events that occur throughout the town during the session. Object events can come in many forms, from a toaster oven that comes to life and grows massive over time to a guardian angel appearance. Sorry, I thought that was funny. While these events do indeed remain to be unexplainable, there are theories conveyed by the APOC agency that their cause is related to interference in reality caused by both parasites and reapers, making the reality field of said area weak by simultaneously existing near one another, also called the Plato parallel. When object events occur, they bring with them a wave of panic and uncertainty. When an object event occurs, nobody is sure of what they're about to witness. The object events are typically kept under wraps by Epoch Agency, and when they are witnessed by the public, they're usually explained as a natural phenomenon with a full media blackout of the event, just like any good shadowy government organization.
Yeah, most object events, kind of
very Men in Black, a lot of different anime organizations. Most object events can be overcome by a character and the parasite working together. However, how this occurs is entirely reliant on the event at hand and how the player decides to approach the problem. Below is a sample list of different objects you can insert into your game. Feel free to change, alter them, or create your own.
Object event examples. You got a meteor impacting the town in 2 days, causing tremendous damage. So you only have a short period of time before it comes on. We talked about the small toaster oven begins to consume smaller electronics and grows exponentially within the hours. Soon it may become gargantuan and start destroying the town.
Damn, I don't know. I have no idea what that's a reference to. I can tell you that.
There's a whole list of these, and they're all really well done. These are great adventure seeds. One thing that I think is really done well in this book for how short it is a couple of sections of I guess not a couple. There's like one like roll table, but there's these adventure seeds like all throughout. So you could easily roll. You could easily like just pick one of these, roll to see what the Epic Agency is up to. There's a section here in a little bit about creating a bad guy. You could roll up one of those and boom, you have a narrative really built out the way it wants, especially when you take your characters into example. So this is the, I think the third and final quote page. This is the them one. Them, only the part that I gave up has been distorted. I put my hand on the place it was cracked. Somehow the poison came out pure white. I'm laughing in the mirror. Really well done. No, I lied earlier. I do have a favorite piece of art in the game. It's this one. It's the one you have as a background. Badass as fuck.
It's a fucking cool piece.
Yeah, I love when there's like little anime girls with giant weapons. I mean, and badass fucking armor. It's so good. And this one seems more refined than all the rest of them. It doesn't have the sketchiness to it. The color is really clear throughout. This is easily my favorite piece. This is another header page like the other ones. This is enemy creation. So you get to generate enemies in empty cycle. So it's not just like a list of enemies. You actually generate them, which is really cool. In enemy creation, it comes in two forms: Guardian Angels and Reapers. Guardian Angels are less threatening but more frequent. Reapers are more powerful and can be more final boss style. When designing a GA or Reaper, it's important to make them feel threatening and mysterious. This can be accomplished by answering a few questions, and those are listed below. So it's like, how tall is your Guardian Angel? Are they massive or small? What type of outfit are they wearing? Armor or clothes? What features do they have? How do they stand out? What's their personality? Those kind of things. Like, how is a Guardian Angel capable of affecting other things around them? Those kind of questions. A really great list of questions. This is another of those sections. I love these questions where you can keep filling out narrative and things like that.
Yeah, again, absolutely.
For how minimal the game is, there are a lot of tools to use to create narrative and to keep their narrative moving. So I really enjoy that. So Reapers and GAs gain access to 3 different stats: strength, mind, and power. So similar to the characters and the parasites together, but different. They utilize these stats in combat and against the player's characters to determine their accuracy checks. So strength is determined by how agile and strong. It's their version of the physical stat. Mind is their version of the mind stat. It determines the intelligence of things and how well they accomplish mental tasks. And power determines how willful, violent, and calculated or intense a GA or Reaper is. And functions much like the wild card. So all Guardian Angels inflict 1 trauma, and Reapers inflict 2 trauma per successful accuracy check on a target character. So you getting trauma, boy. Like,
you're getting fucked up, kind of.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that you're teenagers with a parasite alien inside you. You're gonna be traumatized by other aliens trying to kill you. It's gonna fuck you up a little bit. It's gonna fuck you up. Yeah. Once the accuracy check has been made, the GA will make a damage check to see how much damage they have inflicted upon the environment. The higher the number, the more damage. GAs and Reapers may be created using the chart below. So it gives a standard array for Guardian Angels and Reaper creation with easy, simple, difficult, challenging, hard, struggle, and a list of HP for each one, which is really cool. So for example, easy gives you D4, D6, D6 to use for your stats with an HP of 30, and the struggle, which is the highest level, gives you D10, D12, D12 with HP 30. So like, whew, you're struggling. That's why it's called struggle.
Yeah.
So there are 4 GA types and 4 Reaper types, just like there are 4 Parasite types. So there's a Titan type, which focuses on brute strength. Their checks involve strength. The Joker type is clever. Their attacks are creative and they inherently gain advantage on checks involving mind. The Imp type is bizarre. They utilize strange abilities and gain advantage on checks using power. And there's a Knight type, which is a well-rounded GA that goes all out when attacking, and they gain advantage on using power as well. I like this. It feels cool. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, I like Knight, Imp, Joker, Titan are really cool.
Yeah.
It gives you a sense automatically of how I assume they're armored. There's a little bit of like that Western, like medieval fantasy feel to it. It's pretty neat. I really enjoy it. A little bit of a card, like, play with it too, because I imagine the Imp almost like a Joker, you know, Titan almost like a king.
Well, there's
like
really
a Jack.
There's a really card play on the next one. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, it literally is. Well, then there we go.
Spade, heart, club, and
diamond. Yeah. And these are the Reaper type. So the Spade type utilizes cunning methods of attack. They reduce the target's complex by a die size. The Heart type is a fiery Reaper that sparks passion. They reduce the target's desire by a die size. The Club type is an energetic Reaper that reduces the target's emotions. And the Diamond type is a deadly, powerful Reaper that goes all out and reduces the target's soul. You're getting fucked up by Reapers. I mean, I really love that they're like GAs you're going to see a ton. And really, it's like check versus check. But when you get hit by a fucking Reaper, dude, your die size is just going to get smaller and smaller for every hit.
Yeah.
You're getting, like, it's going to be really difficult to beat Reapers, straight up. Oh, never mind. There was a 4th page, the world. If I could pull out the thorn that pierces my heart, if I could tear off the coward's mask, if I could just undo these ropes, I'd have something I want to tell you. So now we're getting to the designer's note section.
Come on, wrist and black my eyes.
We don't really need to go over this a ton, but it is a really cool section to talk to the GM. It gives some more examples of kind of like digging deeper into the impetus behind the system and really looking forward more into it. Like, Empty Cycle is about being a teenager, sitting in the empty mall with nothing else to do. It's exploring the woods and going against your parents' order. It really just gives you a lot more depth into playing the game. It talks about stress and overflow, the duality of, using these two characters. Fuck, I said there were 3 and there's 5. Reality. Even among friends, I feel lonely. Even though they're nice to me, it's not enough. I want to disappear into the empty night. Do you understand what I am? And then that is the game. That's all the game. That's it. I do like on the PDF that there's a Discord link and a subreddit, both of which are hyperlinked. Love that. And then attached to the back are character sheets, GA sheets, and a Reaper sheet right on the back. And then there's a final page, which is the back of the book. It's got that dope ass logo. The any man's death diminishes me because I'm involved in mankind. A breakdown of the game. It's the back of the book. It's got back of the book stuff. Looks cool. So, do you feel at this point that this is big enough for a score? I mean, we gave Overarms a score, and this feels just like a sleeker version of that, but it is pretty minimal.
Overarms is 100 pages and has far more art.
Yeah, but how many of those pages are literally just like anima?
You mean how many are there just like anima examples or like enemy examples?
Yeah. I thought the whole last 20 pages was just like enemy examples and stuff. I don't know. It does. Yeah, it does feel a little bit light I think for how small it is, it's going to take some big hits on some areas, so it might not do it justice.
I just think it's going to take such big hits in some areas. Yeah, and it's 80 pages. Then if we cut off.
Yeah, you're right. So. And here's the thing: is this is 38 pages before the narrator, and there are multiple pages where there's basically nothing on the page. So it's probably down to 30 pages. It's almost zine sized.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think as far as we're concerned, we're not going to give this a score because I think it would be a disservice just because of how, and that's not a knock on the game at all. It's just sleek as fuck. It's just, but has more than what you need to run the game. I have no knocks. So what, so then let's just do what we do sometimes. Let's give maybe a plus minus. What's your favorite thing about this game?
My favorite thing about this game is the push for the dual nature of your player character. Player characters, two characters, that creates this really great role-playing realm and opportunity.
Yeah, and the emphasis on heavy RP. Small party, one or two players with a GM, but really digging into create the character, really play the character, and then create this other parasitic character based on that character that you really go in depth on. I mean, that's the whole core of the game, but it is the best part. It's really fantastic. For me, outside of that, compared to some of the other stuff, I think, like I said earlier, the number of kind of tables you get for creation, the list of questions for the character, the list of questions for helping you build a GA, the list of what the Epic Agency is doing for a roll table, things like that, the object event things. I mean, you could literally easily go through all of those things and in 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more, come up with a whole adventure just by answering those questions, going through those events, and doing those things. I really like that.
Absolutely.
The book feels a lot denser than it is, and that's why I think I was kind of hesitant on whether we're going to give it a score or not. By page number, it's really small, but to me, it doesn't feel like less than 30 pages of a game. It feels like there's a lot more density to it. And I don't know if it's because some of the pages are densely written. It's not 2 columns. It's one full page, move over and over again. So that's my favorite thing. And as far as I don't really feel a whole lot of negatives. Bookmarks maybe, but that's being picky.
Yeah, I mean, bookmarks maybe, but yeah, I don't know. I think this is definitely one that I would want to play, and I think I'll maybe have some notes on it after that.
Yeah. I feel like I really enjoyed Overarms. I feel like I would enjoy this one more. It might be because it is a little bit sleeker. It has a little bit less involved, or a little bit less, but I feel like has more involvement instead of like we said, just like the anime kind of you're using as a tool. Actually, getting to play the 2 characters, I think.
Yeah, totally.
And again, I didn't watch a ton of JoJo, but I watched the shit out of Fooly Cooly, so definitely makes me want to do it that way. I think that's what we got, right?
Yeah. Hey, what are we doing tomorrow?
Oh, hey. Oh, by the way, we have this thing called Creator Cuts. Let me kick back to a window where we got 2 beautiful faces on us. We have this thing called Creator Cuts. We're going to be doing episode 3, much like episode 1, where we were with Micah Anderson. We actually got to play Troika using their Hex Drive system. Episode 2, John Davis of Helm. He murdered all of us, TPK. Episode 3, bringing Micah back. We are going to be running Batrachian. Well, we won't be. We'll be playing in Batrachian Swamps using Bastards. I can't tell you how excited I am. I haven't read it. I haven't read a single page of it.
I haven't either.
In the hopes that Micah would come on and not only run it, but run it in Bastards. So to actually get the creator of Bastards to run Bastards in their adventure that was written by not only them, but also Nate Tremay, who is a fucking genius. I don't think we've done a single Nate Tremay game on this podcast. I think because a lot of them are really small. I think at some point that we should have a day where we grab Haunted Almanac and go through a couple of their games, because Tunnel Goons is one of my favorite games of all time. We should fucking do that sooner than later. But anyway, Batrachian Swamps tomorrow, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central. Batrachian Swamps, Bastards, Mike Anderson. I'll post some socials here soon, so it's brewing for a while. Very fucking excited for that. I am Ryan. That's Hunter. We are the Weekly Scroll. You can find us on YouTube at the Adventure Archive. You can find us on Instagram at the.weekly.scroll. Again, I promise I'll update it eventually. And we are on Twitter as long as Twitter exists at weekly_scroll. You can also, I've been posting on Mastodon. So we are at the Weekly Scroll on Mastodon. I think I have a Tumblr. I don't know if I have a co-host. I'm not doing Hive. So that's where you can find all of our socials. I got nothing else. You good?
Farewell.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.